On a quiet Tuesday afternoon in the sleepy towns of Kinston and Sampson, Alabama, the ordinary rhythm of rural life was shattered by a storm of bullets, smoke, and blood. Within a terrifying span of just over an hour, a single man, Michael Kenneth McLendon, left a trail of death across 2 counties, transforming peaceful neighborhoods into crime scenes and family homes into morgues. It was a massacre that would horrify a nation and leave investigators scrambling to understand what had triggered one of the deadliest shooting sprees in Alabama's history. Michael was not a known criminal. He was a former factory worker, a quiet man. Neighbors described him as reserved, even polite. But behind the soft-spoken exterior simmered years of resentment, loss, and a thirst for vengeance that had festered far too long. And on March 10, 2009, he acted on it with devastating precision. It began with a house fire. Flames engulfed the small home McLendon shared with his mother, Lisa. Her body, along with the family's 4 dogs, was found inside. She had been shot execution style. Authorities later learned that Michael had carefully placed her body on the couch before setting the house ablaze. What came next was even more horrifying. Armed with assault rifles, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and a dark hit list scribbled in a spiral-bound notebook, McLendon embarked on a deadly road trip. He drove through the rural roads of Coffee and Geneva counties, shooting family members, former co-workers, and innocent bystanders. He didn't hesitate. He didn't discriminate. Mothers, children, elderly neighbors, all were targets in his calculated rampage. As police raced to catch up, McLendon engaged them in a deadly shootout outside the very factory where he once worked. In the end, 11 people were dead, including Michael himself, and many more were left physically and emotionally scarred forever. But why did he do it? What drove a quiet, unassuming man to wage war on his own blood? Inside the wreckage of his burned home and the bullet-riddled streets he left behind, investigators would uncover haunting clues: a list of grievances, corporate betrayal, a legal feud over a Bible, and a storm of psychological torment that had gone unnoticed until it was far too late. The Geneva County Massacre. Classification: spree killer. Characteristics: parricide, revenge, number of victims, 10. Date of murders: March 10, 2009. Date of birth: September 19, 1980. Victims profile: Lisa White. McLendon, 52. His mother, James Alford White, 55. His uncle, Tracy. Michelle Wise, 34, daughter of James White. Dean, James Wise, 15, son of Tracy Wise. Virginia E. White, 74. His grandmother, Andrea Dawn Myers, 31. Corinne Gracie Myers, 18 months, daughter of Andrea Myers. James Irvin Starling, 24. Sonia Lolly Smith, 43. Bruce Wilson Malloy, 51. Method of murder: shooting, location: Coffee, Geneva County, Alabama, USA. Status: died of self-inflicted gunshot wound after shootout with authorities at Reliable Products, State Highway 27, Geneva, the same day. The Geneva County Massacre, which occurred on March 10, 2009, spanned at least 2 communities, Geneva and Sampson, in Geneva County, Alabama, and resulted in the death of 11 people, including the 28-year-old gunman Michael Kenneth McLendon. The victims included members of the McLendon family. He also burned down his mother's house in the town of Kinston, Alabama. When law enforcement reached him, McLendon was shot and killed, though it was initially unclear whether the shot was self-inflicted. Later reports said he committed suicide. Timeline of events. The attacks began at McLendon's residence in Kinston, Alabama, where he killed his mother and set the house on fire. He went to a relative's home in Sampson, where he shot several members of his family, as well as a neighbor and her daughter. McLendon left the family member's home, killed a pedestrian alongside the road, then stopped at a local gas station, killing a customer inside. McLendon left the gas station, heading along Alabama Highway 52 towards Geneva, Alabama. He killed another man who was attempting to subdue him. The suspect is also said to have fired at cars on the highway. Law enforcement officers at one point used the pity maneuver on the suspect's car, which failed to stop him. He died in a shootout in a Geneva metal products plant in which he is said to have previously worked. During the shootout, Geneva Police Chief Frankie Lindsay was shot in the arm. Several people were also injured. Victims. The ages of the victims ranged from 18 months to 74 years old. Among the victims were the wife and child of a deputy sheriff, along with the suspect's own mother, grandmother, uncle, niece, and 2 cousins. According to a local police officer, 5 were killed in a trailer in Sampson. 2 more were killed in the Big and Little store in Sampson. The suspect was killed in the Reliable store in Geneva. It is uncertain whether he killed himself or was killed by one of the sheriffs. He shot at several vehicles on the highway, and then he shot at Walmart and Piggly Wiggly in Geneva. The victims were Lisa White McLendon, 52, Michael McLendon's mother, James Alford White, 55, McLendon's uncle Tracy, Michelle Wise, 34, daughter of James White Dean, James Wise, 15, son of Tracy Wise, Virginia E. White, 74, McLendon's grandmother, Andrea Dawn Myers, 31, Corinne, Gracie Myers, 18 months, daughter of Andrea Myers, James Irvin Starling, 24, Sonia Lolly Smith, 43, Bruce Wilson Malloy, 51, perpetrator. Police believe that Michael Kenneth McLendon, September 19, 1980, March 10, 2009, killed at least 11 people, including himself, during the shooting. He shot other family members and strangers, and shot and killed his mother and burned her house. The killings took place in Coffee and Geneva counties and ended with McLendon's suicide. Detectives have discovered a hit list in his home targeting several corporations. A letter was also found in which McLendon admitted to killing his mother and that he planned to commit suicide. The letter also mentioned a dispute over a legal issue with his family. Federal troops, in response to a request for assistance from the Geneva County Sheriff's Office, and Sampson police troops from nearby Fort Rucker were deployed to the streets of Sampson, where they manned traffic stops and guarded a makeshift morgue. An army investigation later determined this to be in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, which prohibits federal troops from performing law enforcement actions and took administrative action against at least one officer. Reactions. 1 day later, a school shooting causing 15 deaths took place in Winnenden, Germany. Whether the massacre in Geneva County was an actuator for this could not be finally determined. Victims of the Geneva County shooting. The victims killed Tuesday in a shooting spree by Michael McLendon. His mother, Lisa White McLendon, 52, found shot to death inside her burning home in Kinston. His uncle James Alford White, 55, of 201 W Pullum, St. Sampson, the former City of Sampson employee in charge of Water Street sanitation and sewer. White, the brother of Lisa McLendon, was shot at his house. His first cousin Tracy Michelle Wise, 34, who lived down the street at 204 W Pullum, St. former Assistant City Clerk and Magistrate for the City of Sampson and daughter of Alford White, shot at her father's house. His second cousin, Dean James Wise, 15, a 9th grade student at Sampson High School and son of Tracy Wise, shot at grandfather's house. Neighbor Andrea Dawn Myers, 31, of 200 W Pullum. Saint wife of Geneva County Sheriff's Deputy Josh Myers, who was involved in the pursuit of McLendon not knowing that his wife and child had been shot at White's house. Deputy's daughter, Corinne Gracie Myers, 18-month-old daughter of Andrea and Josh, shot at White's house. His grandmother, Virginia E. White, 74, who lived in a trailer at 201-1 W Pullum St. in the yard of her son, Alford White, shot in the doorway of her home. A pedestrian, James Irvin Starling, 24, of Wise Street, Sampson, who was walking south on Wise Street at the time of the shooting, just a few hundred yards from the site of the Pullum Street shooting. employed at Dollar General in Sampson. Inland customer Sonia Lolly Smith, 43, killed at Big Little Inland Store on Main Street in Sampson. Motorist Bruce Wilson Malloy, 51, while driving in his vehicle on State Highway 52 in Sampson. He was a welder by trade. Shooter Michael McLendon, 28. Died of self-inflicted gunshot wound after shootout with authorities at Reliable Products, State Highway 27, Geneva. Also injured, Ella Myers, 3-month-old daughter of Andrea and Josh Myers at the White Home on Pullum Street, Sampson, transported to Sacred Heart Hospital in Pensacola, Florida, with a gunshot wound to the groin. Ella is in stable condition after surgery. Jeffrey Lynn Nelson, 50, on West Main Street, Sampson, traveling in a company vehicle a few blocks from the Pullum Street shootings on Highway 52. Greg McCullough, 49, at Big Little Inland Convenience Store on West Main Street. Mike Gillis, Alabama state trooper, injured by broken glass after McLendon shot at him while driving on State Highway 52 in Geneva. Frankie Lindsay, Geneva police chief, shot in the shoulder in front of Walmart in Geneva on State Highway 52. Ricky Morgan, Geneva Police Department. Lieutenant, minor injuries from flying glass on State Highway 52 in front of Geneva Walmart. Allah, gunman left list of those who wronged him. March 11th, 2009. Samson Allah, the gunman who killed 10 people and committed suicide in a rampage across the Alabama countryside, had struggled to keep a job and left behind lists of employers and co-workers he believed had wronged him, authorities said Wednesday. The lists found in Michael McLendon's home included a metals plant that had forced him to resign years ago and where he ended up killing himself Tuesday to end the rampage, District Attorney Gary McAlally said. Also on the list were a sausage factory from which he suddenly quit last week and a poultry plant that suspended his mother, McAlally said. The pages torn from a spiral notebook included names of co-workers who he felt had wronged him, including one who reported him for not wearing earplugs, another who made him clean a meat grinder, and a supervisor who didn't like the way he cut pork chops, McAlally said. We found a list of people he worked with, people who had done him wrong, said McAlally, in an interview outside the charred house where the rampage began. Investigators offered no immediate explanation for why McLendon targeted relatives and others who weren't on the list, as he fired more than 200 rounds in a roughly 20-mile trail of carnage across 2 counties near the Florida state line. The district attorney said a piece of paper found in the house he shared with his mother also included the names of 9 lawyers in the area. He said McLendon apparently wanted to hire a lawyer in a dispute with members of his family over getting a family Bible returned to him, but details weren't clear. McLendon began his killing spree across 3 southern Alabama communities by burning down his home and ended it by taking his own life at Reliable Metals, where he worked until 2003. McAlally said he believes McLendon had planned more violence at the Pilgrim Pride plant in Enterprise, where his mother worked, and the place he recently quit, Kelly Foods in Elba. McLendon's complete work history wasn't immediately known, but he left the metals plant in Geneva in 2003 and apparently worked at Pilgrim's Pride before joining the sausage factory in 2007. Lieutenant Barry Tucker of Alabama Bureau of Investigations said at a news conference that McLendon was somewhat depressed about job issues, but that investigators don't believe the shootings were job-related. There's no specific indication of "this is why I did it," said Tucker, who wouldn't release a motive. Federal court records show McLendon and his mother are among Pilgrim Pride employees who filed a lawsuit in 2006 against the Pittsburgh, Texas-based poultry firm over claims of unfair compensation. A company spokesman did not immediately respond to an email seeking comment. The district attorney said records found in the home indicate Lisa McLendon was accused of misstating her hours but was due to resume work March 17th. The company wouldn't comment on the reason she was suspended. In the span of about an hour, McLendon, 28, set his home on fire, killed 5 relatives and 5 bystanders, and committed suicide in a standoff at the plant. The community's just in disbelief just how this could happen in our small town, said State Senator Harry Ann Smith from the nearby town of Slocombe. This was 20-something miles of terror. At a prayer service at First Baptist Church of Sampson, Reverend Steve Sellers made no attempt to explain what would drive someone to commit such an act. "Father, there are times in life when we don't have answers to the question why," Sellers said to several hundred people in the church where sobs could be heard. "I don't know what set a young man off like that, but I too want to pray for his family." It was not clear how long McLendon had been planning the attack, but authorities said he armed himself with 4 guns, 2 assault rifles with high-capacity magazines, taped together a shotgun and a .38 caliber pistol, and may have planned a bigger massacre than he had time to carry out. "I'm convinced he went over there to kill more people," said Sheriff Dave Sutton. The shooting was the deadliest attack by a single gunman in Alabama history, and plunged Sampson, a community of about 2,000, where McLendon grew up and where most of his victims lived, into mourning. The town is so close-knit that the mayor coached McLendon in t-ball when he was a boy, and the dead included the wife and daughter of one of the sheriff's deputies who was sent to chase McLendon. As word about the killings spread, graduates of the local high school scrambled to find their yearbooks, and many realized they knew the gunman. "Something had to snap," said Jerry Highsmith, 35, who worked with McLendon at the metals plant in 2001. Among the dead were some of the very people who might have helped explain what set off McLendon: his grandmother, his mother, an uncle, and 2 cousins. This much is clear. McLendon had a hard time keeping a job over the years and had been forced to resign from his position at a local reliable metals plant in 2003, authorities said. Investigators would not say why. That year, he tried to join the police academy, but lasted only a week before flunking out, authorities said. His next known job came in 2007 at a nearby sausage plant operated by Kelly Foods. The company said he quit last week but was considered a team leader and was well liked by employees. The Rampage started around 3:30 p.m. when McLendon put his mother on an L-shaped couch, piled stuff on top of her and set her ablaze, authorities said. Before he left, he also shot 4 dogs. Investigators did not immediately say whether the woman was dead or alive when the fire was set. Inside the charred home, a gun safe was left with its door ajar, and military gear, including a camouflage jacket and green military-style backpack, was found about the home. In another room, remnants of his baseball career, including a 1995 All-Star trophy, were prominently displayed. McLendon then drove a dozen miles and gunned down 3 other relatives and the deputy's wife and daughter on a porch, and shot his grandmother at a house next door, sending panicked bystanders fleeing and ducking behind cars. His uncle's wife, Phyllis White, sought refuge in the house of neighbor Archie Mock. "She was just saying, 'I think my family is dead. I think my family is dead,'" Mock said. McLendon went inside the house and chased his aunt out before driving off, said Tom Knowles, who was at his son's house nearby and saw the shooting. Knowles said McLendon returned moments later in his car, as if looking for the aunt, then turned and looked at Knowles. "He had cold eyes. There was nothing. I hollered at him. I said, 'Look, boy, I ain't done nothing to you,'" Knowles said. McLendon then left for good. Then McLendon shot 3 more people at random as he drove toward the metals plant, firing from his car. At the metals plant, McLendon got out of his car and fired at police with his assault rifle, wounding Geneva Police Chief Frankie Lindsay, authorities said. Then he walked inside and killed himself. The victims included the wife and 18-month-old daughter of Sheriff's Deputy Josh Myers, who was sent to chase McLendon. Myers did not know then that his wife and daughter were among the dead. His 4-month-old daughter was wounded in the attack. "I cried so much yesterday, I don't have a tear left in me," said Myers, who did not know McLendon. "I feel like I should be able to walk in the house, and my wife would be there, my baby girl, climbing on me." Cops close to motive in murderous rampage. Arla gunman turns towns into slaughterhouses, March 11th, 2009. Investigators said this evening they are close to unraveling the mystery behind what led Michael McLendon to go on a grisly shooting rampage, killing 10 people, including his mother and grandmother, before killing himself. But according to the Alabama Bureau of Investigation, the killing spree had nothing to do with a list of co-workers that was found in a notebook in his partially burned home, which law enforcement officials earlier indicated might have provided clues to his motive. The list included the names of co-workers and some supervisors. Coffee County Assistant District Attorney Tom Anderson told ABCnews.com. He had jotted down notes for having been reported by employees for a job-related infraction or for being reprimanded. He was obviously upset with them, Anderson said. At a news conference this evening, though, ABI officials described that list as an employee phone list from Kelly Foods, a sausage factory where McLendon worked until last week, and said it was found in a notebook that appeared to be more than a year old. The ABI officials refused to go into detail about what McLendon's motive might have been, but insisted that it did not appear to be job-related. Though law enforcement officials had characterized the list as a possible key to what set the man off, they said most of McLendon's victims were members of his family, and no one on the list was among the dead. He cleaned his family out, Coffee County Coroner Robert Preachers said. We don't know what triggered it. Coffee County District Attorney Gary McAlely had told the Associated Press the list was a compilation of people who had done him wrong. The list also included several companies, including Kelly Foods and Reliant Metals, a factory where McLendon, 27, worked in 2003. Also on the list, according to federal court records obtained by the AP, was Pilgrim Pride, a poultry plant where he and his mother had worked. According to the records, McLendon and his mother, along with other plant employees, had sued Pilgrim Pride over compensation claims from when they were suspended in 2006. McLendon's murderous spree began with the execution-style killing of his mother and ended at Reliant Metals, where he was cornered by police and shot himself in the head. It appeared that McLendon had intended to keep hunting victims at the factory. He had plenty of ammo in his car and other weapons, and he appeared to be going to do some damage there, Kirk Adams, district attorney for Geneva and Dale counties, told the AP. Alabama State Trooper John Reese told Good Morning America this morning, "We are still unclear of what caused the incident." The shooter is described by former classmates and officials as a quiet person who was briefly a member of the local police department but left the force without finishing his training. McLendon abruptly quit his job at Kelly Foods last week, where he was called a respected team leader. McLendon's killing spree began in Kinston, Ayla, just north of the Florida line, where he shot his mother, Lisa McLendon, execution style. She was shot in the head, Anderson said. The woman was found lying face down on her couch. Anderson said that her body was covered with the corpses of her 3 dogs, apparently shot by McLendon and covered up with a pile of clothes. She was doused with an accelerant, and the couch was set on fire, he said. Police say the heavily armed McLendon then got into his car and drove through 2 towns, stopping or slowing down to fire at people on their porches at a gas station or on the street. Toward the end of his attack, McLendon engaged in a running gun battle with police, who tried to ram his car to stop him. "He opened up on us with an AK-47, said Geneva Police Chief Frankie Lindsay, who was wounded in the shoulder. "That's what it looked like. It could have been an M16, but it was an assault rifle automatic, and he burst about 15 to 18 rounds on our vehicle all at once. It looked like he was trying to kill us. There's no doubt about it," Lindsay said. "We were face to face with him. He just put the weapon out the window and let go a burst." Lindsay said his bulletproof vest saved his life. "The vest comes in play, I promise you," he said with a nervous laugh. It was later determined that McLendon was armed with 2 high-powered assault rifles, a Soviet-made SKS and a Bushmaster. He also had at least one .38 caliber pistol, police said. He fired more than 200 rounds, police said at a news conference today. The carnage ended when McLendon drove to the Reliant Metals factory where he once worked and exchanged more shots with the police before he went inside and shot himself to death, police said. After leaving his mother's house Tuesday afternoon, McLendon drove 12 miles to the town of Sampson, where he mowed down several of his own family members as they sat on a porch. Among the dead were an uncle, a cousin, and a nephew. Also cut down were Andrea Myers and her 18-month-old daughter-child, Corinne, the wife and daughter of a Geneva County Sheriff's deputy. The two had stopped by to visit on their neighbor's porch. Only a 4-month-old baby, Ella Myers, covered in her mother's blood, survived the onslaught. He sprayed bullets through the town. He then shot his 74-year-old grandmother next door. Barry Applin told the Dothan Eagle newspaper that he saw McLendon chase a woman into her house and open fire. "I saw him in the living room just blazing the world up," Applin said. The gunman then got into his car and began driving around the tiny town, shooting through the car window at whoever unfortunately caught his attention. "He sprayed bullets through the town," Adams said. Sonia Smith, 43, was shot dead when she stepped out of a gas station. Another motorist, Bruce Malloy, was killed as he drove past McLendon. James Starling, 24, was sprayed with bullets as he tried to run away. "In a cowardly act, he shot him in the back," Adams said. McLendon fired several shots at the Bradley True Value hardware store before heading out of town for Geneva, 12 miles away. "We were just business as normal, and all of a sudden there were bullets flying and glass was everywhere," owner David Bradley told the Dothan Eagle newspaper. "We realized what it was and grabbed our guns, but then he was gone." No one was hurt in the hardware store shooting. "There's a lot of people who had close calls," Adams said. One of those was Greg McCullough, who was pumping fuel at the gas station when the gunman roared into the parking lot and slammed on his brakes. "I first thought it was somebody playing," McCullough told the AP. "Then he saw the rifle." McLendon opened fire, killing Smith when she stepped outside and wounding McCullough with bullet fragments that struck his truck and the pump. At one point, the rifle appeared to jam, and then McLendon fired more shots before driving off. "She was a really good person. She was getting ready to go to work," said Smith's friend, Deborah Hill. She said Smith has a daughter who recently graduated from high school. In Geneva, police said McLendon let loose with a volley at a Walmart, but it wasn't immediately clear whether anyone had been injured in that attack. Cops chased McLendon to the Reliable Metal Products factory in Geneva, where he exchanged more shots with police before walking inside and shooting himself. One of the officers who cornered McLendon at the factory was Josh Myers, whose wife and toddler daughter were shot dead on the porch in Sampson. His infant daughter, he said, was in stable condition with a wound in her leg. "We get trained to handle something like this, but this was something that was never expected," Myers told a news conference. Myers said he was devastated to find out that his family was among McLendon's victims. "I cried so much yesterday I don't have a tear left in me," he said. "I never in my life will be able to understand it." Myers appealed for help and asked people to pray for him and his surviving daughter. "I don't know how to handle this situation," he said. ABC News' Emily Friedman contributed to this report, a basic timeline of Michael McLendon's Massacre, Ma. 11, 2009. Yesterday in South Alabama, a 28-year-old man named Michael McLendon went full-blown psycho. He killed a number of his own family members, but it looks like Michael didn't really discriminate after a while. Anyone was fair game. When all was said and done, 11 people were dead by his hand, including the killer himself. The following is brief timeline of McLendon's spree. It was around 4 p.m. Michael McLendon kills his girlfriend, Mother Lisa, and Lisa McLendon's 4 dogs at the residence he shares with them. He sets the house on fire. The 4 to 4th of 15 approximate. McLendon, driving his Mitsubishi Eclipse, travels east to the town of Sampson in Geneva County. He is extremely well-armed. Weapons include an automatic rifle and a shotgun. Just outside Sampson, McLendon shoots his grandmother, grandfather, aunt and uncle. McLendon also kills a man who lived in a mobile home on his grandparents' property. 4 to 4:15 approx. McLendon goes to his grandparents' neighbor across the street. He shoots and kills 31-year-old Andrea Myers, the wife of a local sheriff's deputy, and her toddler daughter. Another child is injured and taken to a Florida medical facility. Andrea Myers' MySpace profile. One of her posted songs, Blue Oyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper. 4:15 to 4:30 approx. McLendon has a confrontation with a state trooper while traveling down Highway 52 into Sampson proper. The trooper suffers only minor injuries. 7 bullets hit the trooper's vehicle. Same time span. McLendon kills 2 people apparently at random. Woman A, the Big Little store on Highway 52, and a man at the Sampson Pipe Supply. Quarter 20 to 4 to 30 approx. McLendon fires shots at random into a Walmart on White 52. A local sheriff rams his vehicle. The sheriff is shot in the shoulder. He drives himself to the hospital. Tow. Around 4:30, Michael McLendon is in the parking lot of Reliable Metal Products where he once worked. He fires at least 30 rounds at law enforcement. McLendon enters the business, commits suicide. The Geneva County Massacre was more than just a tragic series of murders. It was a chilling reminder of the hidden battles people fight behind closed doors and the terrifying consequences when those battles go unnoticed for too long. Michael Kenneth McLendon, a man largely invisible to the world around him, erupted into America's consciousness in the most horrific way possible through a trail of bullets fire and broken families. What began in the silence of his own rage ended in the screams of an entire community. The evidence left behind his handwritten list of people who wronged him. The weapons cache, the body of his mother, revealed a man consumed not by sudden madness, but by a long burning fury that had been allowed to fester. His targets ranged from close family members to employers and random strangers. Yet the motive remained a blur: revenge, despair, psychological unraveling, or all three. We may never know the full truth. In the aftermath, investigators, psychologists, and journalists tried to piece together how such a catastrophic rampage could have occurred. Could it have been prevented? Were there warning signs? Could someone, anyone, have stepped in before it was too late? For the small Alabama towns of Sampson and Geneva, healing came slowly. Funerals were held. Children asked difficult questions. Survivors struggled to make sense of the violence they had witnessed. The scars left behind weren't just physical, they were generational, emotional, and spiritual. What makes this story all the more tragic is how ordinary it began. A quiet man, a modest life, a rural backdrop. And yet within that quiet rage found its voice. McLendon's story is not one of justification, it is one of warning. A stark portrayal of what can happen when pain turns inward for too long, and when society turns a blind eye to the quietly unraveling lives around us. Years later, the name Michael McLendon may fade, but the lessons from that March afternoon must not. It is a story not only of death, but of failure, a failure to listen, to reach out, and perhaps most of all to see the storm before it breaks.